anything?
I think that hopefully this time he is taking a leave of absence.
Oh, I hope so.
He'll hopefully get
He's
some
got
help.
to.
I hope that he needs.
Hi there, my name is Tara Kurniali and I'm the community producer of this show, The Opinionators. Before we get into our breaking news topics, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Lauren Lieberman.
Thank you, Tara. I am Lauren Lieberman, and we know Tara Kurniali. With us this week, representing the Liberal side of the agenda, is Sean Burt, who is seeking the nomination for the Federal Liberals on the Mountain, and of course Alex Johnson is with us, public school trustee, seeking the nomination provincially for the NDP in Ancaster, Dundas, Westdale, Flamborough. So let's get back to this crazy breaking news story. The gravy train seems derailed again. Tara?
You know, we've seen this coming for about a year. I honestly think that if Rob Ford had taken a leave as soon as the first story had come out, he could have come back from it. But at this point, I think we're all glad that he is getting help. But I do not know how he can continue his run for mayor at this point.
Sean?
I agree. I think his time is up, and it's good to see that he's getting the help that he needs. But at this point, I don't think he could carry on his duties as mayor of Toronto.
Very good. Alex?
Well, I'm not sure that he's fulfilling those duties. Certainly all of his powers have been stripped of him anyway. The councillors have all asked for his resignation, and I think that I feel very badly for his family at this point. I do believe that, or hope anyway, that he gets the help that he needs. Addictions are very serious, and as we know, you have relapses, and that certainly seems to be the case here.
You know, I feel sad for him and his family, but I feel betrayed as well, especially as a Conservative, because Rob Ford, in my opinion, has been an excellent mayor up until all of this happened. And I really wanted him to come back from this because I think that Toronto still needs this type of voice.
Do you not think there's still time to come back from this?
At this point, I don't think so. I think that it shows quite a lack of understanding on his part and on his family's part up to this point, that they allowed him to continue in this way for so long. And I think that he started, again, St. Patrick's Day was when he started to tumble back down.
He made his own decisions, but I mean, when you have addictions, he needed to step out long ago.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what else we can contribute to this terrible story. Alex, I do want to echo your sentiments that the man has a family, has young children, and that's where the real tragedy of this lies. So before we get any further along, let me take this opportunity to introduce today's topics. Today is Budget Day, and what are the ramifications for that? Will we have an election? What does this budget mean for Hamilton? Additionally, we're going to talk about, is the Senate in fact here to stay? And then we will conclude things at the end with endorsements. Do we endorse endorsements? But let's get started on Budget Day. Tara, let's start with you again. What do you have to say?
Well, we all saw what was coming for the past few weeks. This is definitely a tax and spend budget. They tell us that they're still going to be able to rein in spending by 2017, 2018 and balance the budget. But I do not see that to be the case. I really think that that they've wasted our money for far too long. I don't think the extra taxes on tobacco and over people earning $150,000 are going to be able to pay for the things that they're bringing forward. Are these all good initiatives? Absolutely. But at this point in time, we cannot pay for them. And as Conservatives, we will be voting against the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Hudak. Alex?
Well, I think that exactly as Tara said, we've had the parts of this budget leaked out over the last couple of weeks. I think that the Liberals are preparing for an election. Certainly they're spending all kinds of money right now because they're hoping to win over the hearts and minds of the public. We've seen that in past elections where, you know, they suddenly cancel billion-dollar gas plans to please the public. So this is another similar trick of the Liberal Party. I do believe, though, that that the Ontarians are going to be much smarter this time if we do go into an election. I think that people are looking for positive change, and I think that's what they're going to be demanding.
Okay, Sean, you represent the Liberals. Defend this budget. Tell us what's good here.
Well, I think that Kathleen Wynne and the Liberal government is giving what Ontarians need. They're focusing on healthcare, education, investing in infrastructure, transit. I don't think it's a tax and spend, but
it's definitely a spend.
Well, you know, spending is, in this case, I think, is a lot better than austerity in the Conservatives' route, which is cut, 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 everything, which results in job loss, and more job loss. So right now, I think the Liberals are on the right track. They are investing in Ontario, and we'll have to wait and see how it pans out.
I feel that they're putting so much out there that they want it to fail. They want us to pull the plug as opposed to Kathleen Wynne doing it herself.
I disagree.
I'm just kind of curious, why wait to the 11th hour? Why is it that they're coming through on really what has been so many NDP motions? You know, several times now we've put forward the Ontario pension plan, Liberals voted it down. Mm-hmm. So why now? What changed? And I think what changed is that Kathleen Wynne has read the writing on the wall, and she knows that, or at least she feels that there's going to be an election. So this is a last-ditch effort. She appeals to Ontarians at the last minute when she doesn't have a choice.
Well, because this is pretty much the cornerstone of her entire budget.
You keep mentioning elections, so Alex, I do want to start with you. Mm-hmm. Is your leader going to continue to prop up Kathleen Wynne's government, or is there going to be an election? I don't suppose for a minute that you're going to know the answer, but please tell us how you're feeling, how you're leaning on this.
Well, I think it certainly is a very tough call. I think that we'll have certainly many more answers tomorrow. Horwath is saying that at 10 a.m. tomorrow she is going to announce what her position is. And I think that it's absolutely fair for her to want to read over the budget tonight. Certainly when you're looking at a $130 billion budget, you want to at least have an understanding of what the details are. But I think that it really could go either way. We know that Andrea in the past has certainly worked with the Liberal government, but she then wears all the scandals of the Liberal government every time she does prop them up. So this is going to be a very tough call for Andrea Horwath.
I'm surprised you're calling it a tough call. I mean, there can be no clearer way to go on this. Andrea has to help bring down this government. Andrea continues to talk about, well, how can we hold this government to account? They continue to do all these things. The only way to stop them is to bring down the
Sean,
government. Before
you come in, Tara, I want to at least put it out there that Andrea, in terms of making this decision, has the lowest polling possible. This would be a terrible time for the NDP to call an election if in fact that is accurate polling. Hudak has been consistent. That's got to come into play as well. So Sean, as a Liberal, as Kathleen Wynne, are you hoping for an election? You guys are polling pretty high.
No, I have to challenge that.
Yeah, last time I checked, I was Sean. Sorry, Alex. You know, does anyone ever really want an election? You know, it's a tough one to call on that. But, you know, to go back to Alex's point with Andrea's been shifting positions all over the place. And quite frankly, she hasn't, you know, she's gone AWOL recently, and especially with the issues here in Hamilton. And Hudak obviously had his mind made up. He came right out and said, we're going to be
well, at least we have an opinion.
But the opinion was made before the budget even came out.
Well, the budget's pretty much been out, like Alex said, for a couple of weeks. And how can you defend a government that continues to lie and manipulate and put up smokescreens? You can't. Okay. And so we cannot leave our money with a government like this.
I do have to challenge the point on the polls.
Yeah,
certainly there's been many articles over the last number of weeks saying that it's statistically a three-way race. I think that there's enormous opportunity in this election. I think people, Ontarians, if an election gets called, will be very excited because there's so much opportunity to vote with how you feel. If you are a Conservative, to vote for Conservative. If you're Liberal, vote for Liberal. And if you're NDP, vote for NDP.
I don't think anybody's ever really excited about an election,
Ipsos Reid poll of last week shows clearly, Alex, that it is not a three-way race, that it is the latest polling.
But Lauren, the way that we like to talk about it on this show is that whenever you have a poll, it's just a little drop in the bucket, a glimpse, and the only poll that really matters is Election Day.
It's all about the trends over time.
No doubt about it. So we have seen Mr. Hudak lose his hard stance against unions and job equity, and Andrea's NDP is taking credit for a lot of what I'm trying to suggest is everything's moving towards the center, that the Conservatives are not as far right, and that whether Andrea has moved the Liberals to the left or she has come that way. Comment on that. And Sean, because I'm talking about the Liberals being the center that they're coming to, let me hear from you first on that, please.
Well, obviously they're coming the middle route, the Liberal route. The Liberals have generally, federally and provincially speaking, have been about the average Canadian, the average Ontarian. So I think they're just taking a page out of the Liberals at this point, and yeah, they are dropping their stances, and quite frankly, the way I look at it is Kathleen Wynne has been the only one who has been authentic and genuine throughout this, and she kept an open, transparent process, and she's doing a good job at keeping her people accountable. So I think the other leaders are trying to step up and be more like her.
You know what? I've never done this before. You guys are wonderfully consistent to your positions. Alex, what do you have to say about coming to the middle?
Well, I'd have to say that Liberals traditionally run left, but once they're in power, they implement right-wing policies. And even if you look at, items that have been coming out over the last couple of weeks when talking about privatizing Ontario Power further, she's been talking about more P3s to the Metrolinks. She has $3 billion that she wants to spend on transit, but where is that money coming from?
Yeah,
so
Alex, absolutely, and it's not coming from
Democrats
corporate
have
tax
to
cuts.
ask, is that what jobs are going to be slashed, what jobs are going to be watered down in order to pay for this? To me, it just seems like, we're taking away Johnny's special ed class in order to pay for Paul's transit ride.
Wow.
Lauren, your question to us was, why is everybody coming down to the middle?
Yes.
It's clearly brokerage politics.
Okay.
In Canada, all of our politicians are very similar in our ideas of what we want Ontario and we want Canada to be. We differ in some respects, sometimes greatly when it comes between the Conservatives and the NDP, but we do always kind of merge into the middle. I think that it was correct at the end of the day for Tim Hudak to step away from the right to work legislation. While I might personally agree with it, as a party policy, it wasn't a good idea at the time. Does that mean that we're really scooching towards the Liberals? I don't think so. I think that we're still pretty confident in what we believe in.
Isn't that something?
Towards the NDP, be honest.
What was that?
You're scooching towards the NDP.
Oh, never in a million
Isn't
years,
a policy
Alex.
that doesn't fly a conversation to be had in conservative back rooms and not to be out on the alleged huskings? Like, you have a leader that is so in favor of it who now has distanced himself entirely, yet people will still remember it.
Well, people will remember that. People will remember when I ran under John Tory. They'll remember the private school funding. These are issues that they almost came up with trial balloons, but I think it's wise to listen to what the public says, and if they're very much against a policy, what's the point of running on it?
Okay, we're going to move on, but one quick question, a yes or no for each of you, beginning with Sean. Are we going to have an election out of this budget?
I think so, yes.
Alex?
I think so.
Tara?
Yes, we are.
Well, that's all very exciting. So, I hope we do have an election as well. Moving on, and we're going to begin with you, Alex. It was a difficult swing and a miss for Prime Minister Stephen Harper in regards to the Supreme Court ruling over his Senate reform. If you would like to begin and let us know your thoughts therein.
Well, I think that the deliberation that came from the Supreme Court actually said that the question needed to be posed back to Canadians, and that this wasn't a decision that needed to be made by the courts. It was a decision that was political, and therefore politicians needed to go back to Canadians and consult with them. That's exactly the stance of the NDP. Of course, the NDP has always been in support of abolishing it, but in the meantime, we have put forward all kinds of different resolutions that would make the Senate more fair, to tinker it and make it more fair in the meantime. Certainly in October, Craig Scott put forward the bill that would prohibit MPs, would prohibit senators from spending money for partisan issues. And both the Liberals and Conservatives voted it down.
Okay, one quick question before we move away from Alex. How many NDP Senate appointments are there?
There is none.
There you go, Tara.
There you go. You know what? I think that it was disappointing for the Conservatives to lose this one. What came out of it was that we cannot, as a party, make a unilateral decision on major concessions on the Senate. It is perhaps something that we can go into in the next election, trying to get more support for this, because we have seen a lot of bad apples right now in the Senate. I don't think that it should. You're looking at
No,
me.
it's a wonderful positive spin of lessons learned, but your Prime Minister's got some real egg on his face here.
It's not egg. I mean, we tried to go about it in one way. We went to the Supreme Court, and they're telling us that we can't do it. But that's what everybody wanted to hear. They wanted to hear some sort of resolution. There's your resolution. We can't do what we wanted to do. So let's try another way of doing it.
Sean, tell us.
I think the real story here is just Harper just continues to make poor choices, and he was humiliated by the Supreme Court in this case. I think he flawed in the way he wanted to reform the Senate to begin with, and you look at all the choices that he picked. The bad choice. I mean, Duffy and not to.
What, three bad choices out of
several bad choices, and then you
Well,
look
the
at
Liberals have made bad choices too.
Sure have.
I mean,
everybody has.
NDP have
human
never had a bad
beings.
senator.
That's correct. We have a very clean record there.
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
But
to
I
get back
have to say,
get back to the
Sean-
point, though, really, the only one that took the right route on this was Justin Trudeau. He came
Are you
in
serious?
He made
one
no
foul
route.
swoop.
What did he do?
One foul swoop. He eliminated party politics
Without
from the
even
Senate.
talking to the senators that were
Yet
involved.
you
You know what?
voted
It may
down
have
the
been
NDP.
it may have been cold. It may have been
No, it
harsh
wasn't
the way
cold.
he did it.
It was
but he did it.
asinine. He did it as a publicity ploy,
No.
and it backfired on him.
It didn't backfire at
It
all.
did,
He's the only one that's
absolutely.
actually taken a stance
Look,
at
look at
reforming the Senate.
editorials in newspapers. Look at what
Yeah.
everyone is saying.
Sometimes this show and other political shows can be too much inside baseball. So one of you please take, if we're going to discuss what Justin did, please take time to explain to the public what it is that he did to the Liberals. Sean, you're probably best suited to do that.
Okay, well, he called in all the senators into the upper chamber, and again, it might have been a little cold, but had stated to him that you're no longer under the Liberal banner, so you sit as independents. And I was just recently at a big Liberal event, and there wasn't one senator there. So, he's the only one that's taken the step to actually do something.
And we did not think that was the proper way to go, and so that's why we did not renounce our own.
Right, and the NDP's stance is to abolish it, which is just shopping for votes, because they realize that most people have no clue what the upper chamber and what they stand for. They're exceptionally important. So we need
the public is that disinformed. That's a very poor assumption to make. I do think, though, that it's very curious that Trudeau, on one hand, will take these actions, yet he would not support the NDP bill that would have removed partisanship from the Senate. Why not support that?
He wanted the cameras to be on him that day, Alex.
Yeah, well,
he's the only one that stepped up and actually has done something that has value
But he
to
hasn't
it.
actually done
Not at
anything,
all.
Sean, and you're kind of missing the point there that, again, it was just a ploy in front of the cameras and nothing actually
it was a ploy in
happened
front of the
because it.
cameras. Because the other
That's
thing
your
he came
opinion.
out with was that the Liberal senators or Liberals MPs would all have to report their expenses. NDP has long been doing that. You go onto any of our MPs' web pages and you will find a copy of all their expenses online.
Not
so
true.
actually it is.
That's
So I
not
think
true.
that this is him just trying to go for the media and really not making any legislative changes, which is what he's elected to do.
Anyway, it didn't have any legs.
Okay, so Tara, this was a bit of a swing and the miss for the Prime Minister. Is there Senate reform to be had out of Prime Minister Harper? Can he go back to the well?
Perhaps not in the next year or so, but I would like us to move forward with it. I think that, as we're all saying that there needs to be some sort of reform. So if this is going to be something that we can go to all the provinces with, get unanimous decision,
So
then
there's an
we can move
election a
forward.
year and a half from now.
Yes.
What will the Conservative position be? Because they know that didn't work. For Senate reform when it's an election.
I cannot speak to what it's going
I'm
to be a
only
year and a
asking
half
your
from now.
guesses.
But I think that this will still have legs at that time, and it will be something that we'll have to formulate some sort of policy on.
Absolutely. It needs to be reformed. There's no doubt about it.
Wow, we're all in agreement.
That's a wonderful thing. We just need a green here, and I guess I'll be the separatist.
Can we call Peter Orman on the phone?
Sure, there you go.
That would be great indeed. Time to move on to our final topic. So we have election fever all over the place, a municipal upcoming. A year and a half from now we have the federal, and very soon we could learn about a provincial. Do you endorse the notion of endorsements? It's happening all over the place. It's a crazy ride as we're watching all this. Alex, we'll start with you.
Well, I think that it can go either way with endorsements. Sometimes they're the kiss of death, depending on who it is. But other times it does have an impression on individuals. Certainly down the States, if you have popular pop stars supporting you, that goes a long way. But I think even here in Canada, we have, if you get David Suzuki's endorsement or Maud Barlow's, those are very influential Canadians.
Will you be seeking any endorsements?
I haven't yet, but perhaps we'll have some still.
Sean?
I'm sort of indifferent as to the value of having an endorsement. I think, who was it recently? Was it Rob Ford that had Ben Johnson and a few others in there? And
A Trailer Park Boy?
yes, I really don't see the value in that personally. But you know, there is cases like recently in Hamilton, we had a former mayor who endorsed a former mayor. So you know, that was a sign of maturity, a sign of moving forward, and I think that was great for politics. But in terms of going out,
I would have to disagree there. I think that, you know, when you're talking about endorsements, first off, as the person running, you want, it's public perception. Whoever you're getting endorsements from, you want them to be, you know, a well-respected individual. You don't want them to have anything to come out, because once they endorse you, then all of a sudden you're a package deal. So Olivia Chow in the Iron Sheik, we saw that just this week. Oh, this guy isn't who he says he is, or he's got skeletons in his closet. Now she has to step back from it. So it's a very thin line that you can walk. You want to encourage more people to come under your tent, but if they're doing it publicly, that's going to wear on you as well if something's wrong in their camp.
Well, and all that being said, I look forward to endorsing you, Alex.
Well, thanks, Lauren.
For that very reason. Anything else to say on the endorsement matter?
well, I never ran out and bought a pair of Nike Airs after seeing Michael Jordan up and
But a lot of people do. It's public
so.
perception. There's a reason why. There is a reason why Colgate looks for endorsements. Or politicians.
But there's also the reason that we're talking about it now, that it gets in the paper and that we do notice the candidate based on who he or she is sitting beside.
Mm-hmm.
And every candidate likes to be in the paper and on the news as often as can be.
It's true, but I think there's more value in having, you know, the average Joe or my next door neighbor endorse me, someone that you're going
Joe the
to
plumber.
I know
get out and do something
last
for.
federal election, you know, having the Toronto Star endorse an NDP was huge because it was such a surprise. I think sometimes the Toronto Star is called the Liberal Star because it promotes such a liberal viewpoint. But I think too that there is actually a lot of value of having Plumber Joe endorsing you. I think it's those everyday people that this actually excites a lot of individuals.
But going back to the media specifically, to your point, I think that the media should remain neutral. It is our job to give as much information to the public so that they can make an informed decision. But when you have newspapers endorsing or people in the media endorsing, it shows that you're no longer bipartisan, that you're no longer
But Tara,
neutral.
wouldn't you prefer your paper be upfront about its editorial slant?
how I feel.
That it's been
so that you can just,
anyways?
you know, well, when you go to Toronto, you have a number of papers to choose from, and you kind of understand their slant. Sometimes they can surprise you, but you know, in a large city like Hamilton, we only have one major paper.
Right,
for
but
example.
isn't it better to know who the Spectator is supporting for mayor, hypothetically, than try and guess or try and assume that all their coverage has been balanced when clearly they do have a preference?
I see
think that's a valid
your
question.
point. I see your
Comes down to the
point.
reporter too. There's many reporters with different opinions, and
Reporters just report news. Columnists have opinions. Yeah, right.
Thank you for that. I think,
unless
though,
you read the
I'd
paper.
have to agree with you, Lauren. I think that it's better to have a newspaper come out and be honest, be transparent. Whenever someone says I'm unbiased, I have to really say, well, no, you're just not revealing what your stance is. We all have biases. It's natural. I think that
We do, but I just feel like
it's best
I feel like
to
when it
announce
comes to
those.
radio announcers, when it comes to people like us, okay, in our case, we all represent a party.
Yes.
But as a moderator, for example, you should be neutral.
And clearly I have been. And at this moment in time, I would like to thank everybody for allowing me the opportunity to sit in this chair. We have run out of time. So on behalf of Tara, Sean, and Alex, thank you for watching The Opinionators, and we'll be back again next week.
Lauren, you're
So I
so
call them my potential
lackadaisical.
What's that?
I call them my potential
Nice.
voters.
You should be a moderator more often.
Great job.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll have you back again.
Don't tease.
Oh, you're very fair. That was good.
I was
Small shots to
Yeah.
each and small support to each.
I was pleasantly surprised.
How am I supposed to be on your side defending Harper on the Senate thing? That was terrible.
No.
Right, so I'm not going to be,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's...
No, but I do think that he had no choice.